What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the 5 Minutes with Sean, maybe 10 sit-down edition. So you know we are going longer than 10 minutes today, especially when you bring retail royalty into the group. It is unbelievable. I've been watching April for a long time. I love what she does. Finally have an opportunity to have her on the show. So everyone, please give a warm welcome, April Simmons. April, how are you today?
Good morning. Probably good afternoon for half the people watching it, but fantastic. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. And so as a marketing director of a multi-store group, I'm sure you have your hands full, so we'll jump into it. April, what are we talking about today?
Okay, so I'm probably going to go against the grain of what everyone else has been talking about lately, but everyone else is talking about change and digital retailing and Carvana and electric cars and all of these things and the hoopla and what I like to call the sprinkles. What I want to talk about today is don't forget about the basics. I really genuinely feel like dealers are in a really bad spot right now. Because they don't understand what's going on. They don't understand the why. They're not really subscribed to all this stuff. And technology is fantastic, but we have to understand that people are still behind the technology, controlling the joystick, so to speak. And I really feel like dealers and OEMs too. OEMs are probably as bad as dealers. And in this right now, they're acting like salespeople on the last day of the month that need one car to hit bonus. And we all know what that looks like, right? Like what they're doing. They're running around, talking to everybody. They don't really do anything. And at the end of the day, they didn't hit their bonus. So I'm really concerned right now, based on what I'm seeing going on, is that we're all running so super fast and hard and worrying about all these things, but forgetting about what's right up close to home.
Wow. Unbelievable. This is a topic obviously directly up my alley. You've already mentioned a couple of hot buttons for me. One, all the technology and things that we're doing. I made the joke 3 years ago, we'd already jumped the technology shark then. And we're beyond that now with the number of people coming in and doing the same thing, but putting a different bow on it or trying to convince you that their acronym is different than the acronym you heard previous. And so I'm with you. OEMs, yeah, anyone who's ever watched this show knows where I stand. It's why A, it's why I don't work for them. B, it's why I don't have any deals with them, because I find them to be useless. They are wholesalers. That is who they are. Do not forget that about them. They are your used car wholesaler for your new car department. You would never walk outside and ask your used car wholesaler what he thinks of digital retail on your website. Yet here you are listening to people who know nothing about what it is that you do. Okay.
And it's a high five, my friend.
April, here's the thing. I was saying this 10 years ago. And now it's even more true. You're living the life. People say, "Oh, Sean, you're just mad at the OEM." Yeah. April works at a dealership right now. She's clocked inside of one, and she agrees you have no business telling her what to do because you can barely wholesale cars. So I know April can't do this, but I'm going to tell my OEMs to do this. Stay in your own lane. Okay. April and I have a problem. We both agree we have a problem with staying in the lane because the lane is life, right? And when life needs fixing, I fix it. I don't really give a shit whose part it is or who's responsible. None of that matters to me. So April, when you talk about the basics, where shall we begin with the basics if we're talking about today's deal? Where do you see them needing the most focus? Fixed? Sales? I know there's a lot of options, but what do you pick as number one to you for basics?
You know what? It's kind of an all-encompassing. And I always like to go a step back to go a step forward when we're talking about these things. And I will tell you that the last time we dealt with this big of a change or big of an upheaval time that I can recall was, obviously we had the tsunamis and we've had some of those little, the little dips, right? But 2008 was a big one. In 2008, a lot of people had an opportunity to make changes, to think outside the box, and to grow. And I always look at opportunity happens during these times. So I agree with that. A lot of people left the business. A lot of people did not survive that time.
A lot of dealers closed.
I feel like I did my greatest growth and learning during that time. And I feel like we can do the same thing now. But here's where the issues come into play. We can, my boss says it best a lot of times. He's been saying this a lot. This is an opportunity for us to either create good habits or bad habits. And right now, there's a lot of bad habits happening, a lot. Like I'm seeing 2006 all over again, right? Like people are like, no customer service. We don't care about you. I'm going to blame the CRM for everything. No accountability, no basics, everything thrown out the window,
And to be fair, are you noticing this just in life? I know you and I are talking about the car business, but I'm noticing this theme throughout my life, that customer service has gone to absolute garbage. Like there is some expectation that because I didn't go out for 18 months, that when I do, now I'm to be treated like shit. I'm out. I'm going to stay not going out. I'm going to stay cooking in my kitchen because I don't have any hassles. But so April, within the car business, when you talk about that though, because you obviously have some passion about the bad habits in 2008. You're right. The biggest growth of my life happened in 2008 to 2010. I learned, and I'm not talking, forget business. Business taught me so much about my life, who I wanted to be. I was so overextended in the car business right there. I was a GM, big paychecks, big multiple houses, cars, all this BS. And within 6 months, it was all gone. It was gone. And for what? For gluttony. And that's where we are now. We're in gross gluttony is what I call it. I'm not mad at you people for making your money when you can make it. But the short-sightedness of a 5K deal in 24 months from now, that's where that deal sucks. There's no way out of that car. There's no help for the future, right? So basics of customer service. April, where do you see it at a store level where the basics are really on display the most? Because I have my opinion.
I think a lot of it is just complete lack of focus on the most important things. So it kind of what I just said, it's actually, you bring it, we can go all the way up and then all the way down again. It's all in that same space. So it comes from the top down. So the OEMs are pushing all these new things that we need to be focused on, making the GMs now go spend all their time focusing on these things. So now they're not paying attention to what their desk managers and their fixed ops are doing. And so it's just trickling down all the way down to the fact that now you've got salespeople not doing proper meet and greets, you don't have, emails getting responded to in a timely fashion. You don't have people getting greeted on the service drive in a timely fashion. And then when they do, they're not being treated the way that we typically, want to see them treated. And instead, then when things aren't going the way we want them to go, we start blaming all this other stuff, all this other, this all glitters or sprinkles or all this other garbage that's out there.
I love the glitters and sprinkles. I love how you sort of put this like candy cane adventure deal on it, where it's just like, yeah, over here, but that's the reality is none of that stuff's good for you. Candy sprinkles not good for your health. I love that. I love that. Sorry, keep going.
None of that crap matters. It's one of those things like, and not to bust one of my guys, but we have VIN Solutions, who we have for our CRM, and we have our rep here training this week. And it's always pulling teeth to get people to show up to training. But it's always valuable because they always walk out not doing the stuff that they're supposed to do. And we get them kind of reset, retrained, and drink the Kool-Aid and send them back down the road. Well, then they always want to blame the CRM for things. Well, we need to fix this and we need to fix this. And I'm like, okay, but we've talked over and over, again, about the basics.
About data entry.
Make sure you're handling the basics first. You can I love sprinkles. I love gravy, but gravy without potatoes and sprinkles without ice cream are not as good.
Just gross.
You have to handle the basics first. So now if we're not answering customers' emails and you're upset because you missed selling a car by a day because you felt like you should have got another lead, or AI was AI should be handling that, and they should have grabbed that email, and they should have set an appointment, and this, that, and the other. And I'm going, wait a minute here. No, 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 no. What is step 2 on your to-do list of the day, right? Like, that's the first thing. So go back to basics. Most important thing, customer in the showroom. Most important thing. Second most important thing, lead that just hit the inbox. Third most important thing, emails and text messages inbound are answered and answered properly. Like, if we're doing those basic things and then we're treating people with love and respect, then we win. It's not hard. Stop making it harder. Like, we're all making this way harder than it is. Stop making it so hard.
Look, guys, I'm just going to take the rest of the show off. I'm going to let April go solo here because clearly she's good. She's doing a better job of explaining this to you all than I have, because this is perfectly what I'm talking about. So I come back to a little bit of spoiled atmosphere right now with just all the tech. You know, I will date the two of us. It's fine. I don't care. But CRMs, people. Let me tell you about Cobalt's original CRM. Okay. I mean, if you really want to hear about when shit's broken and when things don't go your way, okay, this is Cobalt, not any of the other things they turned into. When I was running my Subaru store, the ILM system was a disaster. But we could transfer photos from customers in the mountains to show us their trade-ins. Yes, it took 13 hours to download because they take gigantic pictures, but it doesn't matter. We utilized the systems. You didn't make excuses because you couldn't believe you had that. I started with a Rolodex in 1999, okay? An actual living, breathing paper Rolodex. So anything above that, I really don't want to hear about it. I think that the problem with CRMs is the shit gets hidden. My Rolodex was not hidden. My Rolodex was in the front of my desk. It was step 1 of my day. Boom, boom, boom. What did we do? What did we sell? How do we move? Where do we go? That's what I was taught. That's how we do it. CRM, you guys, it's on your phones. Like, I don't get why there's so many excuses for so many advantages. Like, you have so many. Some days I think about giving up what I do, which I would never, but I think about it. Finding a beautiful store somewhere, nice, and just selling cars. Because I guarantee you I'll outsell anybody today, because I've seen all of what most of you do. It's lazy. You could be doing more than, even with no cars. My top guys that I still follow in the country are still top guys selling tons of cars. It hasn't changed. So April, how do you, you said that you talked to a salesperson about, training and I need you to kind of pull on the rope if you want me to pull on the rope thing. Is there anything else that you do creatively to get them inspired or to do more with the CRM? It's just such an underutilized tool. And I used to tell my guys, hey guys, if you want, you can start paying the bill for this thing and you can tell me how you like it, because it's expensive, especially at multi-store groups. Your ownerships are into $1 million of technology and your salespeople, never once do we ask them to pay for it. I don't. You run your own business, salesman, without any overhead or headache. It's ridiculous.
So yes, to answer your question, yes. First and foremost, I have come to the realization that people are lazy. And if we haven't all realized that, yes, they are. Yeah. So I've stopped listening to. So here's the reality: most salespeople think that once they get a customer or a lead, whether it's a walk-in, a service, it doesn't matter, that they own that customer. Like, they always want to own that customer. So they think they should have this like active customer for the end of time and own that customer. So I've just controlled the situation at this point and said, look, you don't control the customer, or you don't own the customer. You got this much time. You're either on or off. And by doing that, then I can build out automated processes behind that takes the salesperson out of the equation at that point and makes them focus on the low-hanging fruit, because that's the only thing they're going to do anyway. I can try to believe that they're going to equity mine. I can try to believe that I can inspire them to do so. I can try to believe I'm going to get them to go talk to service. I can get them to believe that they're going to call people and wish them happy birthdays. They're not. They're absolutely
1%. That's a 1% in the salesman world today. Absolutely. Correct. They exist, but not in the numbers they think they exist.
Correct. And the ones that do, the ones that want that, as soon as I see that they're like, hey, give me more, I give them all my time and energy. The 1%ers will get all that time. I will show them how to do it. I will give them extra opportunities. I will help manipulate that, because those are the ones that when they start succeeding and everyone wants to know why, that's when you pick up and inspire 1 or 2 more. You're not going to inspire 10 more. You're never going to get these guys down here. You know, your 8-car Sally's never going to sell 20 cars. Like, it's just not going to happen.
I like how you use a female name for 8-car Sally, right? That's I like. Very good, April. I'm listening. I'm hearing this. I like it.
But if I can get 8-car Sally to sell 10 cars, and I can get, 10-car Sam to sell 12, well, then that's where you really get growth. It's not, we got to stop focusing on how to get the 8-car guy to be the 20-car guy when they're never going to be. I just want to get the incremental increases of every person and find ways to make everyone better. And that's really how I've built teams and grow teams, is stop worrying about trying to have, 10, 20 car guys, realize everybody has a purpose and a place, and just make sure I utilize each individual person for what they're best at.
That's a huge part of it. You don't put. That's why we started a data company and not a training company, if I could be honest with you, is because at the end of the day, to be a trainer, you've got to believe that you're going to change the 80%. Otherwise, what's the point? If you're only out to change the 1%, then I don't know if that's much of a business model. Maybe I'm wrong. So you have to believe that. And I don't, because I've lived it. So I know. I've sat through trainings. I've been an OEM trainer. I've been a salesman who deals with trainers. It's just not something that a lot of people get into. But your approach, for those of you who do internals, right? So April's a marketing director of her group. She works, this is part of her role. See, I use the word marketing, but the reality is she's more than that. She is a director of people and processes. That is what we are lacking. You're lacking oversight and accountability in your lives, most of you. The reason we killed it in 08 is because the accountability came from the owner. The owner was hardcore accountable. Yeah, he was rough, but the checks always cashed. They were the biggest in the state, and you knew what you were getting into before you got into it, because everybody knew the rumor about who this guy was, and the rumor was true. But if you did what he asked, best friends, dinner on the ranch, this tickets to a game, whatever, didn't matter. If you didn't, then it was different, and that's okay. I think we've kind of, April, you'll know what I mean, because you talked about it in the pre-show, but we've kind of just, I don't know, we've gotten too soft on the way that we approach things and people, and like everything's got this cancel to it. Like, you can't say this, you can't say that, but honestly, coddling isn't going to get it done all the time. All right, I don't have kids, so it's easy for me to sit here and tell you that I'm not a cuddler, because I'm not. I don't do it. I don't approach it that way. But I learned from guys. I grew up in the Chicago car business. There's not a lot of room for how I felt. Okay, those weren't discussions.
And accountability is not about, it's not about yelling and screaming, right? Like, it's not. I'm not a yeller or screamer. People ask me all the time, well, how do you get people to perform so much? How do you get them to work? And I'm like, I work, right? Yeah. Like, if I want my guys to start making calls and they're not making calls, you know what I do? I grab my phone and I just start making calls, because I will then make them just feel like crap for not doing something if I'm doing their job for them, right? So you don't have to, kick people in the butt. You don't have to yell and scream at people. Oh. But I do think that accountability is just too huge. I mean, we have processes for a reason. There's processes that have been around, and we can talk about, the need for culture change, which I agree with. You will not find anybody who hasn't been trying to do my part in changing the culture for 20 years in this business, but it's a slow moving thing. You can't force it. You can't force people to change. You have to change people one heart and one mind at a time. And that takes time. So in the meantime, we still have these processes, and these processes still work regardless of the culture around them. The processes are still there. You look at any franchise, every franchise out there has a process, a very specific process. Food shows up a certain way, it's temperatured a certain way. Everything has this is what we do and how we do it. And there's a reason why franchises have processes, because they work, right? Because they work. Because it's made them successful. So to abandon ship now and say, well, process doesn't matter, meet and greet doesn't matter, sell yourself, sell the dealership doesn't matter. The only things that matter is all this new technology. I think it's just a travesty, and it scares me that you've got too many GMs that are blindly buying into it. You know, they're blindly saying, well, this is what they told me to do. And it does scare me. I sit here and I'm like, okay, we're worried about Carvana, used car. I'm in new cars. I get it. All right. We're worried about, I'm not saying we shouldn't worry about things or be blind to the future. Yes, we need to be working on that. But everything I do, process is built around the norm. You know, we deal with exceptions as they come up. And right now, the norm is still the norm. I'm not selling cars via the internet differently than I was 2 years ago. But I'll give you a little piece of, I'm going to get mad now, and I probably should have had a disclaimer, like a Surgeon General's warning. Before you watch this, you might hear some words, some language, and some opinions you don't agree with.
Look, April, I would hope by now, we're coming up on 200 episodes. I would hope by now people got that about this show. And if you don't, you can go. It's fine. You don't have to keep watching. But yeah, no, like if you're going to use the word mad, and when someone like you says mad, I kind of grin, because I kind of wonder what mad looks like on people as bubbly and as positive as yourself. So please lay mad.
Okay.
Lay it on.
So when COVID happened, end of March, we furloughed 70-some% of our stores. April 1st to April 30th, I had almost every vendor and OEM call me up about digital retailing. And by the end of the month, I'm like, if anyone says this word to me again, their head is going through my wall. Like, I will literally drive to where they are, drag them back to my office just so I can ram their head through the wall. Because I've been on digital retailing for 9 years plus. I signed up with Tim Cox and Carnow before he was a thing at all. I was the first one in Phoenix who signed up with his platform. So I've been on digital retailing. But let's be clear what digital retailing in my mind is and what it isn't. Digital retailing in my mind is about customer experience. It's about creating customer experience on your website so that they didn't have to go to 92 websites to figure out what they were looking for. I wanted to be a one-stop shop. I wanted to provide value to my customers so that they would convert on my website so that I could sell them a car. And now suddenly we're thinking that the computer is just going to sell cars for us. Well, someday, maybe. But the last time I checked, and even through this last year through COVID, 80% of people who show up on the lot buy something different than what they intended to buy when they walk through the door. So I don't understand how that's not that this is the majority now, like that we need to be changing everything we do for the minority. When, I'm the person that says, look, we're going to do everything for the majority. And then when we're going to deal with the minority as they come up. I've been selling cars online. I've been shipping cars. I've been doing this for 15 years, right? This isn't new. This isn't something that's new. But it's still the minority to me, right? So we don't change everything we do for the minority. Now, as things progress and the minority starts to become bigger than the majority in that spot, then yes, we start to make transitional adjustments as time goes on. But today, as we sit here, I don't want to be Carvana. I have no interest in being Carvana. I don't want you to try to make my business model match their business model because I don't agree with a lot of the things they're doing. And I still think that I can survive. I don't think I'm going to be the blockbuster because I'm not jumping on board to every little nook and cranny that everyone wants to do. Last time I checked, my service departments still do really, really well, and Jiffy Lube still exists.
The whole comparisons of the blockbusters and the Netflixes and all this other stuff it's really silly. It's the whole Amazon. That's all dumb as far as I'm concerned. I love when these conversations happen because they're mainly fueled by vendors for the most part. This idea that you need something is fueled by a vendor. It's not a dealer, and then the vendor will say, well, that's because the dealer's behind. Well, maybe it's because you, Mr. Vendor, have never lived the dealer life. Therefore, you have no idea. And you're in it to sell your product, get it big, and have one of these other companies buy it. So please stop acting like you're here to try and help my business, make me better. You're not. You're here to make money. And that's not that I run the Red Cross over where I work, but we certainly put people first, profit second. I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that as a person. And it's important to me to do that. During COVID, we were giving basically 75% of our clients for before the vendors did it and after they stopped doing it. And we also pushed those conversations against the vendor to say, where are you at? Where are your discounts? You got customers lined up with nobody to sell cars to and you're still charging full rate. Then it was 50%. 50%. Then Car Gurus came out with their nonsense and that bullshit they tried to sell people. And it goes on and on and on. So let me just kind of back up a little bit. Digital retail, I agree with you. I call it remote retail, which is make a deal wherever, whenever possible. If someone calls you, wants to deal by phone, deal by phone. Text, text. It doesn't matter. To your point, we were selling cars in the mountains of Colorado in 2007. Okay, 2007, people did not have to come from the mountains to the dealership. The dealership came to them. So again, the idea that you are somehow behind or ahead of a cycle is stupid, in my opinion. And lastly, I kind of teased this a little bit for the upcoming 200th episode, but I was talking about buying cars online in episode 6 of this show, November 2017. And I told you then, and I'll tell it to you again, no one cares. No one cares. I have a dealership in the middle of millennial tech hell, April, in Palo Alto, California, 3 miles from Facebook, 2 miles from Google. He'll do 97% retail through his front door and 3% online. So if you want to tell me it's about where you live and you don't live in a techie enough area, I'll take that and flush it down the toilet. It's not true. It is what you want to believe. Brian Kramer, love him to death. He's talked about the percentage changing. It's gone from 2 to 4. I get that that's double. I'm a data nerd. It's not beyond me. It's still 2 to 4, right? It's like if you look in Google Analytics, right? You see like a 80% drop in traffic in social media month over month, but it went from 10 to 2. Okay, let's scale back a little bit. Let's not overreact because you saw a number 50% double or 100% loss. We get lost in it. So April, how have you been able to keep because this is your role, right? Your role is just like our role here at Car Business. Filter, get the GMs what they need, not what they think they need or what they're being told they need. So how do these conversations go with April and a GM when he says, April, let's go get the newest, shiniest object, and that's what we're going to do, and it's going to change our lives. April then says what?
Well, I just put it all in perspective for them because here's first and foremost, I will tell you, I consider myself an innovator. I consider myself ahead of the curve on technology and the things that we're doing and the things that we, when new stuff comes to me, I'm the first one to look at it and I want to hear about it and I want to see if it's something that I think might work within us. I mean, I was doing OTT before anyone knew what it was. I consider to be a person who likes to be ahead of things. So I don't want to come across as like a person who's like, no, I'm, 1985 and I want to stay 1985. It's not. It's just understanding how it's going to work for us right now. And everybody's different. I get that too. Like I always tell people, look, I'm in Phoenix, a non-loyalty market, a highly competitive market, a market that doesn't have a lot of rules and regulations, and a market where you can get to 9 of the same new car franchise store within an hour. Like legit, I can go store to store to store within about an hour. So it's very competitive. So things are a little different here than they might be elsewhere. And I understand that. So what I do with the general managers, I'll sit them down, after they've had this, you need to do blah, 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 and this, and this. And for the most part, I'll be honest now, they don't talk to vendors. They're like, you talk to April, if she likes you, then we'll talk. So for the most part, it works that way, which takes, saves them a ton of time too, which is great. But then you get the OEMs who come in and they're like, hey, you need to do A, B, and C, and you can only use these people and, trying to figure it out. And, ultimately we don't have a choice, right? Like there's too much factory money. We don't have a choice but to play the game. And so I do everything that I can to find, the best that we can work around it. But it was really hard, and I was really frustrated with the way that things came down during COVID. It was like, you must offer pickup and delivery. You must take people cars to test drive and things of this nature. You must advertise that you're going to do these things. You must do all these things. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Did you not just hear the part that we just furloughed 70% of the staff? So I'm running with like 2 people, and it's at a small store, maybe not even that. I had stores where there's managers only. Like, I had 3 people in the whole store. How are they supposed to leave and go pick up a customer's car to bring it in for an oil change? So it's just, again, it goes back to hear people, just listen. The same thing that we need to do as salespeople to actually sell a car, which is to listen to what our customers' wants and needs are. I just wish that everyone else, whether it be vendors or OEMs, would do the same thing with their dealers. Just look at what's really going on. And you're right, Sean. I mean, there's so many times where people want to sell me something and I'm like, they're not going to use that. I like your fancy platform, but do you realize how many platforms we have already? If I showed you my login, you would be like, I have this many passwords. Like, it's insanity.
April,
I can't.
we get it. That's all we do, right? So we do what you do. That's the role. And so you want to be a filter for people, and we've got logins to every back end. And I got an upcoming show that I'm working on, basically to tell vendors, help me help you. Before you redesign one of these stupid back ends, talk to somebody, because no one actually gives a shit. Save yourself the money. Get to the basics. We got dealers all over the place. Sean, can you go on the back end of the website? We log in. There's no data. Oh, where's the data? Oh, well, it hasn't been connected. Oh, ever? When you acquire new people in our world, when new clients come on board with us, some of the horror stories, some of the shit you see, and you say to yourself, how did you get here? And the GM or owner almost implicitly will go, well, the OEM said. And you're just like, oh my God, please, somebody help me. And you brushed over it. And I like how you did it, because it was smooth, it was quiet, but it was like the OEMs with that list of people I have to use. Yeah, that's some bullshit, okay? OEMs, do away with your lists. All you got to do is have a standard set of what you expect, right? Mm-hmm. And then if a vendor doesn't do what you expect, you do what you do with advertising guidelines anyways, and your font is off and your color's wrong bullshit strikes you give, and just do that. And just allow to let people use whoever they want. It's their money, ultimately, if I understand the co-op program correctly. It is my money. I sold the unit. I should spend it like I want. And you don't let me do that. OTT, now, right? April, you and me were ahead of OTT. I guarantee you and me were ahead of the curve. I like to say, April, and I think you should say this too. I'm not ahead of the curve. I am the curve. That is who I am. That is what I've prided my whole life on being. Sean, that's arrogant. Yeah, deal with it. I've worked my ass off to get there, to make it that way. That's how we do business. But here's the other thing. If you look at accountability right now, where is accountability from the OEM to me on digital retail? How often does the OEM want to talk about the production of the DR tool that they approved that do nothing, that convert for shit, that have. Correct. And also, lastly, my gosh, this is now I'm getting
break. I know, I'm sorry.
You know what I'm saying? Because now I think about digital retail, and you'll know this because in Arizona, buy here, pay here it's a business model like in most major metros. Mm-hmm. That's what digital retail feels with these choke pages. Before you do anything, give us all of your information, tell us everything about you, then get into the system, then ask about a credit app, and then you'll end up leaving because I don't want to do that. That's not what I'm here for. So we don't.
And hope it doesn't break, right? Like hope it doesn't, like your computer doesn't pause out, or something doesn't connect completely perfectly right, or any.
And the feeds are never broken, right? The feeds are always perfect. Oh yeah, no, Sean, we've got the right APIs. It breaks. Shit happens.
Here's the biggest one, and this is, we like to talk in my company. We talk a lot about unintended consequences. Mm-hmm. Here's the biggest one that I want to bring to light. When you take the dealership personnel out of the equation and you take the salesman out of the equation, you OEMs will lose car deals. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. Mm-hmm. Go on to digital retailing. Bada bing, I'm building my deal. Yada yada. I'm on the car. Right, yeah. Okay. Yeah. My car budget is $350.
Okay, 350. Okay.
350. But I just picked my car and I built it out. And this is the car I want. I'd already decided all this, and I do the thing, and it comes back and it tells me that I am going to have a $500 car payment.
Mhm.
What do I do now?
I'm boning. I'm out.
Gone. You're gone. You're gone. You leave. And guess what you do? You go somewhere else.
Mhm.
So now I go to another OEM that doesn't have this, and they get on the phone with a person who's looking at the same price car, and they talk to a salesperson. The salesperson says, "Hey, great news. You know what we could do? We could probably get you a little bit more for the trade. If you have fantastic credit, we might be able to extend your term a little bit,
Or lease.
show them a lease,
Or lease.
or show them something of this nature, right? And now they just sold a car, and they just took a car away from you. So there's a real, like with used cars, I get it. Like used cars it's a niche vehicle. It's, it's a specific, you don't have the exact same. But when you start talking about new cars, I feel like we have to be very, very careful on this direction. I feel like we lose more than we can gain if we're not really, really careful on what it is we're actually trying to do, what it is we're actually trying to accomplish. And I think if we just take digital retailing for what it really, truly should be, in my opinion, today, tomorrow, different story, but today is a customer experience. It's about letting customers get online, feel comfortable, play around, get a basic idea of what things are, not have to go to 9 websites to do it. You don't have to go to paymentcalculator.com. You don't have to go to, kbb.com and all these different places, right? It's a customer experience to allow people to fart around and figure out what they want to do without actually having to commit to anything. But, it's not what it's being sold as right now. It's not.
No, it's being sold as some magic bullet, some way that you're going to fix everything. And not to mention, if you get into digital retail, there's so many, like Brian Kramer, him and Sandy were on the show a couple of weeks ago. And Brian talked about how, dude, digital retail is like the last part of what you actually need to be worried about. Like all the things that happened before that. And I spoke in Canada. Last public speaking event I ever did was in Canada pre-COVID in September of that year. And I'm there, and I said, Canadian dealers, how many of you are willing to talk, do a car deal over the phone? Room of 40 people, not one person raised their hand. And I said, then how can you possibly wrap your minds around digital retail? Like how do you make the division of, no way, we'll never let them sell a car online, but hey, they want to pencil their own deal, appraise their own trade, go over their own credit app, and then come out the other side. I think I'm okay with that? What?
Not. Well, and here's the other thing. How many of them have ever actually gone into the internet department, looked at how leads come through the CRM, and then asked the salespeople if they actually are reading it before they respond to it?
I'm sorry. Right? What's that? You mean reading the notes? You mean understanding where the lead came from?
Answer the question. We can't even get it. We can't even get them to answer the question. You think they can desk deals now based on our customers? And
are you kidding?
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
and now with all the influx of trade leads, and I've got BDCs just taking trade leads and acting like it's an inquiry on a vehicle, and I'm just like, whoa! What are you doing? It says trade lead. It gives you VIN and miles of a car you don't have in stock. Correct. What made you think you needed to get a price? Like, why are we here? So, and again,
cart before the horse, right? Like it's a massive situation, and it's just I think a lot of it.
It's a lot of, in one word, is cart before the horse. It's just
a lot of, I think there's a lot of decisions these last couple of years, just being made out of desperation versus inspiration. And everyone just needs to take a deep breath and a big fat pause and say, what are we really doing here? And make sure that we have the right intention going forward, have the right game plan going forward, make sure the basics are being covered first and foremost, so that we can go there. But I really feel like I finally figured out this last year where a lot of this, for lack of a better way of saying it, bullshit comes from. And it's surveys. So think about this.
Sure.
We send out all these surveys to customers. Would you like this? Would you like that? How would you like if it was this? And customers answer these surveys. But what I've learned through the years, 20 plus years in car sales, customers don't know what they want. That's why we have salespeople. So to take what they say in the survey to heart too much, I'm not saying they don't have value, but too much, It doesn't make sense. But it also goes to surveys that we have of general managers. How many times do, whether it be an OEM, a vendor, a current vendor comes in and says, well, what if I could show you this data, or I could show you this, or wouldn't that be valuable to you? And they say yes. And then they go back and they build these big fancy things. And then the general manager logs into it how many times?
0. We watch it. We know it, right? You can see the login data. You know what exists. If you know where you're looking, you can see people's interaction. It's 0. No one cares.
It's too much.
And that's my favorite part about data people, where they're like, well, what do you want to see from your data? Dude, that is not how data That is not how data works. Data is to tell you a story. You are not to tell data the story. Yes, you tell a story through data, but it should tell you. People always say, Sean, you make it sound like your data speaks to you. It does. I have a new nickname one of my clients gave me. He calls me the data tea leaf reader. And now he just sends me screenshots with no context, no nothing of a data set. And he goes, what's wrong? And I'll go, well, it's probably this and this. And he'll send back, how do you do that? Well, I've been looking at this shit. I was the first one to use Google Analytics 2008. I've been looking at all of it. Yeah, you all get lost in all the areas you want to go into down the left bar, all the different conversions and the this. Just stop. Look at the basics. April, when you said that today, I almost started to yell because we do the same thing every single month for our clients. We look at the same data points. Sean, is that boring? It can be if you don't have fun with data, but I have fun with data. I like what I'm doing. Second of all, if things break, it's obvious as the day is long because we're going to the same place, the same way, looking at the same report. It doesn't need to be more complicated. I don't need to go adding secondary dimensions to my clients' videos so that they can sit there and see how their data stacks on top of each other by city, by Apple user versus Android. Dude, stop. Just because you have the data does not mean you need to go read it or interpret it. You got it. It's more than that.
Or that anybody cares. Exactly.
And you talk about the surveys, April. I love that because surveys are meant to inspire, right? That's how I see it. Someone says to me, Sean, what could be better about your experience in this hotel? Oh, well, you could have had my favorite drink. You could have had my, whatever. And it's like, you just shoot the moon because who cares? But my favorite part of surveys, and you'll remember these. So back in the day, Auto Trader used to have those big printouts that we'd use in our finance department, circle what drove you here, and their logo was the biggest, and then everybody else was really small. But every time, at least 50% of the time, people would circle radio. We never run radio. We never run radio in our lives. But here you are. And so, yes, data is important, but you mustn't live on it. You must take the data with what is going on in life.
Correct. In life. It's a balance.
You often say to me, Sean, do you see that huge increase for this client? Wasn't that incredible? And I go, you mean the one in direct traffic based on spam traffic from India that went to a finance page? Oh, well, they were up 1,300 users. Yeah, that page saw 1,450. So they're actually down 100 users. Oh, well, that changes my whole presentation. Yeah, I figured it would. Dig in, people. If something looks too good to be true in the data set, it is. It is. Go find it. If you doubled conversions month over month, no, you didn't. You probably have 2 GA codes, 2 GTM codes. They're running simultaneously, and they end up bouncing against each other. So your bounce rate goes to 2%. Your conversions go through the roof. You didn't actually do that. Sub 10% bounce rate, your shit's broken. Don't tout yourself. Don't go telling the world about what you've done here. You've done nothing. It's scary to think about. So April, I know you're busy. I want to wrap it up with you, but you talk about the basics. We've talked about the salespeople and the salesmen, all of that. But because of your position, I want you to go and tell me and other vendors, because I am a vendor as much as I try to be a partner. I don't run dealerships. I have small stakes in some things, but I don't own anything and I don't run them and I'm not in it. So I'm not in retail. I am a vendor. What can we as vendors do to get back to the basics to better help you, the dealer?
I think vendors first and foremost, if we talk about what we do on our side, I will give you the same advice. Sell, don't tell. Right? So too many vendors right now are, telling dealers what to do, and this will help you, and you need to do this, and you need to do this. And you're not actually stopping first and foremost to hear what the dealer's dealing with, because everyone's different. we're going to go through this inventory situation, and I'm going to have 2 stores be okay this month and 2 stores be okay, and then 2 that are like, there's nothing they can do, right? And then next month, this is all going to change, right? For those different dealers. And so I think the most important thing that vendors have to do is be in communication with your dealers, but listen to your dealers, ask questions, understand what's going on for them specifically, and don't tell them, well, we just got this study. Okay, that's a national study. That's great. That's awesome that, you're seeing this across the board, but that may not be what's going on in your dealer's backyard. So deal with your dealer one-on-one as you would want to be dealt with, give them the customer service in that respect that you would want, strategize for them individually, build, content individually, build campaigns individually, so that they can really thrive. And then understand that there is a lot of pain points, and just be careful. Just be careful, because I feel on the other side of this, we're going to have a mass amount of vendors going, woohoo, we just broke records, because dealers are making a good amount of money right now, and they're being told we need to do all these things, and they're scared and desperate because of lack of inventory. And so there's a lot of yeses happening, that on the other end of this, when they don't see the value because you didn't actually sell the value, there's going to be a mass cancellation. And I just feel like, people need to be prepared for that. So,
well, they're hoping to sell their companies before that happens, April. That's the whole get right now, is to just build it up to that rooftop number that all the investors are looking for, and then boom, get it, sell it. I've been asked this 100 times. This company that I created is not for sale. There's nothing to sell. Okay, we're people doing a job. So if you sold it, means I have to work for you. Pass. Hardest pass of my life going to work for someone else. I am so unemployable. It's not even funny. I won't sit through meetings. I'm not going to show up to anything I don't want to. I'm going to work from home. And right there, people are like, you're what? And it's like, exactly. So remember, when April talks about this, guys and gals, I want you to really listen. It's important, because dealers, look, I've got a weekly show. We come on, we squawk box. Everybody hears it. We know it. This is a dealer, okay? This is someone living the life currently. So you can't say to her, yeah, but, because she lives it. So you got to have to replace it with yeah, and, or yes, how else? Can I help you? Because she gets it, right? And that's the part of it that I think when we talk about the basics, I too sit through a lot of vendor meetings, as does April, as our lives dictate. And I think the basics really applies. And that is to, if you're a company that is going over data every single month, and every single month you have a 26-minute call where no one asks any questions, there's a high probability you need to change your presentation. Yep. Okay? Here's the thing, guys. In my world, our clients get a 3-minute video summing up to $200,000 a month. Actually, those videos take me 4 minutes. 4 minutes, sum up $200,000 with actionable insight. If you can't do that, then redo what you're doing. And don't tell me it's me. Don't tell me it's focus. It's care. It's understanding. April's giving you a roadmap right here, right now. Don't sell, tell, right? Or don't tell, sell. That's the point. Don't tell, sell. I love it, because the point of it is to work and to listen. And I also love, April, how you equate the job of a salesperson immediately over to the job of a vendor rep, because it is. Because people have gone and confused themselves that widgets are widgets. Okay, I've been selling widgets my whole life. I started selling Cutco knives, for goodness sakes. Okay, so it's a widget. You have to just, same philosophy, same deal. So April, as we wrap this up, what do you want to leave folks with, to say, hey, if you didn't hear anything else today, if you didn't want to hear anything else today through the 45 minutes we've talked, what do they need to hear before we stop taping here today?
I think in the whole summarizing of going back to basics is, right now, from the top bottom, in everyone's organization, you need to really, what I typically like to do is cheer down, right? Cheer down. If you're not sure what's going on, and if you really feel like all these other things matter, take whatever your position is and go to the position below you and push everybody else down for a day, and see what happens, because you'll learn what's really going on very, very quickly. And we need to change right now before it's too late. I'm very, very concerned on the other side of this, that the bad habits that we are creating right now is just going to create more lazy staff, more, blame game. It's everything else's fault. It's the computer's fault. It's the customer's fault. It's the OEM's fault. It's everybody's fault. And we're creating that culture right now, which is very similar to 2006. 2007, just before the crash. And when the crash happened, we had a mass exit of people, and some really good people out of the business. And I don't want to lose any good people out of the business this time. So I'm telling you, get with your sales reps. Take this time to build your brand. Take this time to build good habits. Right now is the time to actually show them how to work outside the box, how to follow up with customers, how to read those internet leads, how to equity mine, how to do all those extra things and build real solid sales staff who know how to sell when they come out of this. If not, you're going to go through a really tough time where you're going to go from this super, super high of making massive amount of money to all of a sudden every single customer giving you the bird.
I mean, look, folks, this isn't someone who hasn't lived it, okay? If you've heard the references, you can hear how far back. She's a lady, so we're not going to get into her age. But the point is, she has been doing this a long effing time. And I need you to take what she said to heart, because it isn't enough for people like me to say it. And I get that. I haven't been in a dealership in a decade, blah, 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 blah. I understand it. This woman's there. She's, like I said, she's there right now. So I'm going to just kind of dovetail on a little bit of that to wrap it up. April mentioned a lot about accountability, period. Starts there. No matter what, inspect what you expect every single day. And if you're not, and you take a day off, expect others to also take a day off. And this part right now, April said it. If you're not doing more training than you've ever done before, I'd like to know what you're doing with your time.
Yes.
Because right now, my 20 car guys, they ain't got cars to sell for 20, so they're at 15, which means there are 5 less hours. I like to equate every car deal to an hour. I know it doesn't take that long, but it's always was my goal to sell a car in an hour so I can go sell the next one. I've already told people forever. I never understood the 4-hour grind. What are we doing? Get the price, sell, buy, get out. Let's go. I want to keep moving. So that's a big part of it, people. You've got to be able to take time to train, because you ain't got a lot of time to sell cars because inventory is tough. But order outs, trades off the street. We got all kinds of ideas out there. I got dealers spiffing people who work for them to find cars for sale on the street. Whatever it takes, be creative, work together. And if you need a couple of inspirational quotes, go back and listen to the last 48 minutes, because April drops them, okay? I tried to write them down, but unfortunately my notes it's crazy what I write down. But my point is, but you want to see, it does make no sense. All right? My wife said, my wife goes, you look a bit like a psychopath with all those notes and stuff. But I got big circles around accountability. I got big circles around the basics, innovator. And so, the inspiration and desperation stuff that you dropped, I love it, April. I gotta give you one more, Sean. Yes, what is it?
This is, if you haven't heard this one already, it's probably one of my favorites. It's the one I use for the GMs all the time. It's the one I use for, trying to talk people off the ledge, whatever. Facts, not feelings. So for a data person like yourself, you'll love this one, right? Oh, hey, that mailer worked really great. Awesome. Let's look at the facts. It's great that you feel that way because one person walked in with it in the office, right? But let's look at the facts of it. And just one other piece of advice as far as trying to think outside of the box right now and come up with greater ideas. You have to make sure that your people know the why, or they will not subscribe. Woo! So one of the things that I did in 2008 to get my people to drink the Kool-Aid is we read a book together as a team. We read 10 minutes every day together, Who Moved My Cheese? Because you have to get into their heads why they should be doing these things. And if they don't drink the Kool-Aid, they will not do it. So take the time to make sure they subscribe. Take the time to get the buy-in. And April, this will not catch you by surprise.
I've been using my favorite saying my whole life, and it's exactly the same as yours, which is save your feelings for your therapist.
Yep.
I'm interested in the facts. And we go down the same road, and you're absolutely right that that's what we need to have. You and I have used the word how we feel today because we're talking about our industry. We're talking about something that we're passionate about. So it does apply to feelings. But I will not say to you that, April, I feel like we had a good month. No, we either had one or we did not. Feelings are irrelevant. This moral victory stuff, I'm a sports kid, that don't exist, okay? When my football team gets blown out, but somebody had a good game, don't care. Not interested. It's a bad day. So, April, thank you so much for your time. You have been so gracious. Where can folks find you if they want to learn more, follow April? Where's the best place to do that?
Probably LinkedIn. You can message me there. If I miss your message, just message me again. I try to do my
It's a
best.
busy lady, people. It's a busy lady. We're all about the LinkedIn. You know, that's our culture, our community, where we go to spread our word. That's where everybody's watching us now. Thank you, bud, everyone, for joining us. Next week on the show, we're going to have some fun. You're not going to want to miss it. We're always trying to keep the good times rolling. April, thank you again. And thank all of you for listening, watching, however you consume our show. We appreciate it. And we'll see you again next week.